My name is Andrew Calder. I'm a paranormal researcher, also an ordained Episcopal priest / exorcist.
My name is John Zaffis, a paranormal investigator in demonology.
In closing, quick recommendations for someone getting into the paranormal. Spirit communication, is that something you would advocate in any way, shape, or form, or are there dangers in the simple acts of asking, are you there, give me a sign?
There are dangers in anything you do once you enter the paranormal arena. And here again, EVP, psychic photography, going to these locations, provoking, seances, everything falls under the same category. I know people that have done all these things and they've never had any issues. We deal with the people that do. And here again, certain people are more susceptible than other people. Sensitive people have to be extremely guarded when getting involved with these things. I deal with a lot of psychics, mediums. I've always worked with them. I always will. And some of these people fall to some serious attacks upon their lives. So, you got to be very careful. They're going to hone right in on those types of things. So I always tell people, be very careful getting involved with these things. Use common sense. It's a key thing with this work. If you get a bad feeling about something, don't do it.
Okay. As far as EVPs, what would you think about the investigators who are in the house and they're analyzing evidence, listening to the EVPs? Do you think there's some tie with the EVP, the frequency that it may attract or bring in a danger to the home?
Here again, with all of my review, as far as my material goes, EVPs and videos and things like that, that's something that I do within my confined area of my office. People expose some of their children to this and there's no issues. Some people do and they have some major issues. I mean, you're trying to get a child to understand things and accept these things. Here again, you have to use caution and you have to be a wise enough parent to realize whether that child is being exposed to something that's going to end up messing them up more. So, cautious with all that. Here again, would rather see children, as far as reviewing evidence and things like that, be a little bit older before they get involved with things like that. But, a child hearing EVPs or, looking at psychic photography, I mean, what are the chances of something happening? But if you're doing an investigation and you don't even know what you're dealing with at this point in time and you're exposing it to your kids, I look at that a little bit. You got to be a little bit more cautious with those things.
Right.
Any other thoughts on that?
Well, just to expound on that a little bit, if you're already having haunting phenomenon going on in your own life, your own home, whether it be attachment to the person, the client, or whatever like that, doing EVPs can make things worse for the client, especially if they're dealing with demonic, malevolent type hauntings. I think John will probably agree with that.
Absolutely. To be honest with you, Andy and I have been involved with several cases where, the clients had issues going on, and that's a big thing we have today because now everybody wants to do psychic photography. They want to do the EVPs in their houses, and I recommend that they don't, because that's just going to make things escalate out of control. It does, like I said, here again, with a lot of things with the paranormal arena, it's like Russian roulette. You just don't know. And if you're having issues, especially on a demonic level, I recommend these people do not do the EVPs in their homes, and they do not do the psychic photography. And if they feel it's necessary that they have to do this because they're trying to prove to themselves,
which is a trap in itself.
And I agree with that. Then my next recommendation with certain people that do these things like that, if you set the camcorder up, you set the tape recorder up, and you're just letting it run, I'll look at that one way. But if you're going to go in there and start challenging it and provoking it and asking it questions, I look at that totally differently.
So how about the investigators who realize that they're audibly now hearing voices, faced with this possibility that it's in their head? Do you see that there's a trap with them using a recorder to try to verify whether that is there?
Could. Yeah, you could look at it from that perspective. It could be a trap. Here again, that's part of our field, and these are things that I think we all look at, trying to come to some type of conclusions on. Is this going to be used as a tool? If you're a paranormal researcher And if the person is gifted or psychic and they're picking up on something and they're recording it, that's a given, because to be perfectly honest with you, my theory with EVP is I don't think it's the tape recorders, I don't think it's the environment, I think it's the people that are getting the EVPs that are attracting the spirit.
Okay, so spiritual magnets in a sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why can you have a whole bunch of people doing EVP recordings and nobody gets nothing, but yet there's one or two individuals that will? Why is that? And you'll usually find those are very sensitive people, or people that are involved with hauntings that will get these EVPs.
Do you think people who may be mentally unstable or have harsh childhoods, emotional problems, should look into the world of paranormal investigations?
Yes, for an understanding of it. I have nothing against that. Knowledge is power. If you have people that have been victimized in any way, shape, or form, if they went through counseling and they're able to come to terms with this. Because that's a difficult thing, and people don't realize that if you went through trauma as a child, and then you're going out there, because we deal with a lot of trauma on our cases, that has nothing to do with paranormal, and you get involved with it, that's an instant flashback for a lot of these people. And that's leaving yourself more vulnerable. So I'm very guarded with different things like that, absolutely. I don't know how you feel about things like that, but that's the way I feel about it.
I more or less agree with what John said, just to expound a little further. But if people have current psychological issues, bipolar, paranoid, schizophrenic, stuff like that, I don't think they should get involved in, paranormal research and so forth, because they already have issues and problems, and these things that they get through the paranormal can make it even worse to deal with. I think they need to be on a stable ground. But me and John get cases all the time where people are psychologically unstable. And if they even did have any problem, there's nothing we can do to help them until they got stable, get with a counselor, go through counseling therapy, sometimes even get on medications to get their brain in the proper states and everything, so they can emotionally deal with it properly.
Very well said.
Yeah.
So faith system is extremely important. People should have this set up ahead of time in advance.
Oh, absolutely. If a person doesn't have anything on a positive and you start getting involved with different things, especially the paranormal field, that can and will affect you.